Welcome to Changing the Narrative with Red.
And dang, my green call your name. And Stace.
And we're here to share our lives and our journey moving to South Africa. We have a couple of special guests. We're going to let Assad go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, fam, it's your brother Assad, and we are back again. Nah, I ain't gonna do all that, but yeah, it's brother Assad. Adrian will be joining us shortly. She's moving around a hotel right quick, and yeah, Assad, that's me.
All right, Thomas, you want to introduce yourself?
All right, y'all. My name is Thomas, and I've had the pleasure to join you all today for the first time on camera, as you can see.
All right,
but I'm pretty much on a journey of learning more about moving to SA, just seeking better options, and yes, that's the position I'm in right now.
All right, Doc, what's up?
What's happening? Well, I don't have a podcast. I don't have a special intro. I just say what's happening to everybody in SA, and well, my wife sleeps, so it's just gonna be me.
Just gonna be you?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I did just start a YouTube page.
Yeah, man, it's fun, man, and you get to meet people. You know, whether they're there, here. You know, it's a good start.
Yeah, you get to learn a lot too.
Yeah, it's a good start. You get to learn a lot. But this here is about the last podcast that we had. You know, one guy asked us basically what was our intentions, you know, and why are we all Black Americans moving to SA?
And specifically middle class, successful, well-to-do Black Americans.
You know, so I don't want him to think that we're coming there and trying to take, jobs and do crazy stuff. So I thought that it'd be kind of good to have some other people on that can explain again, what we're trying to do. So who want to go first? Nobody said nothing.
I'll jump in. Y'all know I like to talk regardless.
Yeah,
so
me too.
So I think the question he asked first was, is it really that bad? And I think that's something that we can deal with because only we can speak to that experience, right? No one outside of I hate the terminology, the African descendants of slaves, the American descendants of slaves, but that's who we are, right? We are the descendants of slaves. So no one can speak to our experience and how that experience has left us in a certain condition and positionality. So is it really that bad? Well, what does that mean? Really, we have to kind of parse that down. Are we still picking cotton? Obviously not, right? But the long-lasting effects of chattel slavery has left the masses of African Americans in poverty. Those of us who have managed to pull ourselves out of poverty still face levels of discrimination and obstacles that are sometimes insurmountable. So there was a recent study that said 7 out of 10 middle-class Black children will fall back into poverty within their lifetime. So even when we manage to pull our children and put them in a middle-class neighborhood, put them in private school, give them the best education that we can provide, they will still end up at some point in their lifetime in poverty. That is the result of the long-lasting effects of chattel slavery, of American slavery. So when we ask, is it really that bad? It's a very layered and textured response, because the flip side of that is that we have had the benefit of living in the most powerful and most economically, I would say, free nation, probably in the history of man, right? But that is coupled with the fact that we are locked out of much of that economic prosperity based on the color of our skin. Secondly, I would say, and I'll close with this, our African brothers and sisters, and I've said this on my channel many times, when they come to the United States, they receive a different treatment than we do, right? Based on accent, based on their last name. They don't have, in white America's eyes, the same baggage that we carry, right? And this is true in the reverse, right? When Black Americans go to, I remember Dr. Eddie Glaude, professor, I believe he's at Princeton, saying he went somewhere in Europe and the Black people there were being treated so poorly, but he was given like a king's welcome because he was not their problem, right? Right? He was America's problem. They were dealing with the Black people that they had there. He was seen as different. And that's the same thing that happens to many of our African continental brothers and sisters who come to the United States. They will face racism and some forms of discrimination the longer they stay. I mean, it's a great book by it's a great book cast by, oh man, her name escapes me. It's not that important. It is important, but Isabella Wilkerson. In her book Cash, she tells a story of a Nigerian brother who moved to the United States. Not only did he have to, in his 20 years that he stayed here, not only did he end up facing racism and discrimination, his physical health began to deteriorate. He developed diabetes and hypertension, right? And I think in the story, he eventually moves back home. So, but there is a different treatment for our continental African brothers and sisters who come to the United States, again, because they're not seen as America's problem or America's Black problem. We, the descendants of slaves, are America's Black problem. So anyway, I don't want to monopolize the response.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that if we're answering his first question right now, is it that bad? Yeah, to the people that are ready to, if people that are ready to pick up and move away from everything that they've ever known, I would believe them that it's that bad. You know what I mean? And we're not in war right now, and there may not be national famine or anything like that going on in the United States, but just the level of stress and anxiety that comes along with being Black and living in the United States, and what you were just talking about, the health costs of having to maintain to keep up with the rat race, because it is expensive to live here. The expectations are that you work yourself to the bone. You get rewarded for working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. In South Africa, it's different. Like, people are more focused on their family and enjoying life. The speed of everything is different. It's just not from my experience. Obviously I was there on vacation, but people that were there that were working during the week when we were vacationing were having a good time with us.
Right.
It's just a different environment, a different vibe. And I don't know, it just seems like the stress lifts when you're there. And I've never been anywhere else that I didn't want to leave. It's, for me, it's all about, like, I want to have that feeling every day.
I mean, alone, just one thing alone.
Go ahead, Thomas. What you say, Thomas?
Oh, well, I experienced the same relief of stress.
Turn your mic up, Thomas. Can't hear you.
Oh, can you not hear me?
A little bit.
Am I speaking loud enough? Is that what it is?
I hear you.
You're loud, but you're not loud enough.
Okay.
Yeah, you might need to speak up just a bit.
How's that?
Okay.
Better.
Okay. So I feel like, just speaking on what Red just said, the weight of it's some type of weight that is lifted off of you when you're there, right? But I feel like one of the biggest weights that we carry here every day in the States is being Black. Knowing that you're Black. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of pressure being Black here, from each other sometimes, right? Because we were not taught to love each other here because of the slave trade. We were pitched against each other. So carrying that weight every day, knowing how people view us, seemed like it was just lifted. I have those concerns there, and I just felt like a person that can just exist for once, and just also speaking to what you said about how people seem like they were enjoying themselves. They were more focused on family. that's just something that's the core of my belief. You know, that's something I align with very heavily. So just knowing that that's an option there, but it's not here, because we here in the States, we live to work. We don't work to live. It's the complete opposite of what it should be.
Yep.
So, and being in SA, people talk about load shedding and things like that. I'm like, I would use that opportunity to bond with my family. You know, I don't have that concern about load shedding. If anything, that's a way for us to recenter our focus on what should be most valuable to us, which is each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've just truly enjoyed it. When I was in Cape Town for 2 weeks, it didn't feel like enough time for me at all. And yeah, it just seems like it's just too much pressure to live here. It's just not a very good work-life balance. It's just not healthy thinking. And as you can see just by watching our news, there's some mental health crisis in this country. You know, all of the violence, all of the unnecessary laws that are created, all the judgment, it's all come from an unhealthy mental state, in my opinion. So, and there's so many of us with these issues to where it can be chaotic almost. It feels like a war zone. So yeah, it's very hard to even leave home nowadays.
All right. What's up, Doc?
What's happening, man? Listen, everybody, I pretty much agree, but it's more than just a racial thing. We Black people are not the only people that are trying to leave the United States. White people are too. And when you say, ask the question, is it that bad? Well, it's not that good, I could say. But, you know, I've been in America for, it'd be 53 years in a couple of weeks. And I can say I had way more good days than bad days. The difference is over the years, I became aware of my surroundings and aware of the truth. And once you're aware of the truth, you start seeing things in a different light. See, as long as you're in the matrix, just like in the movie The Matrix is great. But once you see the truth about things, then you start seeing things in a different light. The truth about religion, the truth about history, the truth about politics, the truth about everything. Then you start seeing America in a totally different light. Now, in 2020, when COVID hit and we was all stuck at the house, that was the worst thing that could have happened to the powers that be, because they didn't expect us to sit around and read books. They didn't expect us to get on YouTube, start finding out stuff. Now people starting to find out some stuff, and they learned some stuff that was hidden for all these years. Now people are finding out since 2020. Now you start paying attention. So we done came out of the honeymoon phase when we just said, oh, we love America. We love it. Now we out of honeymoon phase. Now we start to see stuff. You're not as clean as I thought you were. You're not as nice as I thought you were. You know, you got oil on your booty. I didn't know you had that.
I don't think you heard that one, James. I don't think you heard that one.
I heard it, and I was looking up something. So
yeah, you got too much oil on your booty. I didn't know you had all
James,
that.
James, talk up a little bit.
Huh? You can
talk up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that when you start becoming aware of what's going on, then you know you get a chance to go to another place like South Africa. It's a whole different feeling. It's almost like you falling in love again. Now, once we get there, you know, once the honeymoon phase over, we might see some things that we don't like. But I can say this: I'd rather spend the last half of my life in South Africa than being in a situation where I'm in a zero net sum, meaning that I'm working. The more money I make, the less that I have.
Right.
Oh, I've had the big house and the fancy cars and all that kind of stuff, but it costs money to have all that and keep that up. And that's not. I was existing, but I wasn't living. And I want to be able to come to South Africa, live a simpler life, and enjoy my life, and not working to exist. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I've been to South Africa 3 times, and each time I enjoyed myself. The people are friendlier to me, and like I said, I've had more fun in the past year or so with people that I've just met than people that I've been with for 20, 30 years. So, I look forward to it. I look forward to the food. The food is different. It's just more natural. Don't have all those preservatives and pesticides and all that other stuff. And I'm just looking forward to it. So, people, who want to come to America, come. I'm not telling people don't come, but because they might have a different experience than I did. I can say that for majority of my life, I had a great life. I know a billion people that have switched places with me right now. But as I've gotten older and I'm starting to see more and more things, I feel like it's time for a change for myself and for my family. And I think South Africa is the place to be.
All right, all right. I was talking to a brother this morning from South Africa, and we was talking about what we're talking about now. And he brought up movies from the '90s, man. He brought up Minister Society and Boys in the Hood, saying that they was thinking that's what was really going on over here. And I'm like, in some places it is, but that's not us,
No.
And he was just asking me a whole bunch of questions, and it really had me thinking, like, man, y'all impression of America is kind of a little warped, because those movies, and a lot of those movies they watching are not real. He asked, like, even the guy that said the comment, he mentioned some it was a TV show that happened.
All in the Family? Was it All in the
No,
Family?
My wife and kids.
My wife and kids.
And when they those kind of stuff, like, for instance, the Cosby Show. How often, Cosby's and some of the other shows that we saw growing up, it was like, how many families really grew up like that? But they're seeing those perfect TV shows, making it thing like, well, you know what? Maybe that's how all the Black Americans are living. A lot of us grew up in single households. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, to me, it's I don't think it's about the family structure that he was talking about. I think it was more about the fact that those families worked hard and everything worked out for them. You know what I mean? Like, there's all this opportunity, but at the same time, like, we've had a lot of opportunity and we've had access to money and investments and owning our own homes and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything if you fear for your life, like walking around your own neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be conscious about looking friendly and talking to people so they don't call the police on you and think you're suspicious because you're out walking at 6 o'clock in the morning before the lights come out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's those kind of stresses that you don't see on Family Matters and the Cosbys and stuff like that. You might have one little episode sneak in there to talk about racism, but they don't show it as something that you have to think about every minute of every day when you're walking around, even inside your own home. You're not safe.
Yeah.
Right. They killed Breonna Taylor inside her house sleep.
Executed a no-knock warrant for no reason.
Yeah.
So when they talk about, is America really that bad, I think part of the issue here is how America has been promoted throughout the world. And if you look at America on paper, it is a phenomenal country, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among those of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This is profound. That, like, when we place it in the context of history, this is the first time in world history that a document granted all men equality, all men and women equality, right? But Barbara Jordan said, what we want is simple. We want an America that is as good as its promise. Its promise is beautiful. We've never seen it in practice, right? Especially Black people. Many white American brothers and sisters, go ask them Appalachian white folk out living poor in Kentucky and them Indiana. They ain't never seen it, right? Women, Black, white, indifferent, ain't never seen it, right? But when people hear the propagated America, that Declaration of Independence and this Bill of Rights, you got to have the greatest country on earth. And then they watch the TV shows. Then they
Right.
watch the Cosby Show. Then they watch, all of this stuff. And it's like, oh, this place has to be great. But it is the image versus the reality, right? And Sprite told us a long time ago, image is nothing, right? So I think that is the hardest thing to break through, is to get many of our continental African people, brothers and sisters, to realize that they have been propagandized, that they have drank the Kool-Aid. And we're here telling you, man, no, no, that ain't what it is. That is just not what it is. And then I think Thomas and I talked about this at lunch. It's like here Thomas, and maybe Thomas will tell the story about Trevor Noah and his explanation of racism in South Africa versus racism in America. But there is a way that they cloak this racism, right? They try to hide it, right? So you're constantly being gaslighted, and so when something happens and it's obviously racist, is overtly racist, but that's not because of race. And now you're second guessing yourself. It's like, man, am I crazy? Am I really, being mistreated because of race, or is it something that I have projected or perceived that's incorrect, right? So, and that can drive you crazy. Red, you mentioned something that I think is important. You mentioned the word trauma, right? And I think that's another thing that we walk around with trauma from watching people being murdered, our people who look like us. George Floyd was trauma porn, as they call it, right? That was trauma porn, but that wasn't the first. We remember Rodney King getting beat in the 90s. That's trauma porn. And then the police getting off. That's more trauma. We have carried this in our genes, and we will pass it on through our epigenetics to our children, right? Because of the conditions and environments in which we live. So if we can escape that, if that is the only reason, right? If that is the only reason, so that our children won't pass it on to their children, won't pass on that type of trauma, then it's worth all of it. Is worth it, right? And I'll say this, and I'll shut up because y'all know I like to talk. The flip side of that is, the question is America really that bad? The flip side of it is South Africa really that good? And I think I can make a profound argument why South Africa is really that good. Mainly that we as Black people are the super majority there. We are the decision makers. When I'm riding down the M1 or the N1 and I look up and I see a billboard, I see Black faces. I may see some white faces, but I see Black faces. When I go into McDonald's and they got the little lady eating the French fries, making the nuggets look all good, dipping them, it's a Black lady with natural hair on the billboard. When I turn on the news and watch, I think it's News One or Newsroom or whatever have you. When I turn on the news on YouTube, it's Black people reporting the news, right? So this gives us the spectrum of Blackness, which is absent here. When we see images of Black folk, for the most part, I would say 80-90% of the images of Black folks we see, it has something to do with rap, it has something to do with entertainment, basketball, football, or criminality, right? And that's why images like Barack were important or whatever have you. But I'll stop there because I can go on and on.
Thomas.
Yeah. So just pretty much what he was speaking on, I completely agree. It's just such a powerful statement to know. I'm sorry. Okay. So just being here in America and just knowing the difference between the two, I feel like it's just such a powerful experience. You know the difference, good from bad, what can be better versus hoping and thinking what could be better. And just being in South Africa, I've noticed like how people are treated, how we embrace each other there. And I always wondered why Black people were still so open, still so forgiving here in the States. as far as like how we are mistreated, but we're still very open and accepting for the most part. We haven't rallied together to fight back or anything like that. But when you go back to the continent, you notice it's because that's just not who we are. We are embracing and friendly people. That is our nature. Now, all of these other things that people may see on TV, like on the news about us or things like that, I think it's almost like a taught behavior. We were pitched against each other, and to an extent is how I feel. But knowing what possibilities we have on the continent is just inspiring. It's what's leading me there. And honestly, to just think of bringing kids into this world is very difficult to accept that this is what we have. These are the conversations we have to have with them here, telling them that, you know, you're a certain color, so you may be treated a certain way. And I've lived in multiple cities like Mississippi alone, to where that experience was it was a daily thing, almost like I had to submit to who they wanted me to be even be able to work anywhere to an extent, or not make people uncomfortable. So now that I live in Houston now, and I was able to embrace my blackness again and relieve myself of the trap of America is what I accepted in Mississippi. And now you see I have dreads and things like that. So it's like, but I never in a million years thought I would have pushed forward into this, because I didn't realize what I was doing wrong and how I wasn't loving myself to an extent is what it was. Because I'm actually born and raised in Detroit. And for me to say I gave up my blackness to an extent, that's just being honest. Come from Detroit, going to Mississippi just so I can exist is what I felt like I had to do. And now I'm able to come out of it and look back and say, man, you really did give up who you were for a little while. And it's just sad that that's even something we have to face, or some of us do face, when we're put in certain positions, to whether we want to succeed or have success. We feel like sometimes we have to conform. And it's a very uncomfortable thing. And especially it's I hate looking back and knowing that that's what I've done in the past. So but I just look forward to learning and also embracing the South African culture. And there's just a lot of opportunity there for us, and to know that South Africans people are leaving that continent. I just don't think they may see what we see that's lacking here, that is there. Because you know, ignorance is bliss. You know, there are things that we don't know about there that we won't know until we do get there. But we may sound biased, but based on what we experience here, I'd give it all up to just give it a shot, to be honest. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I agree. You got anything for us, James?
So what?
You got anything?
I can say that my experience, I don't answer to no white man. I ain't scared of no white man. No white man control my life. If I see a white man, I ain't gonna put my head down. I don't have those issues. Okay. But I can say this: there is a difference, you know, of how Black people are treated in the United States, but that's not everybody's experience. One thing we also, as Black people, we do get it from white people, but we get it from our own people too, and we can't leave that out. Just Chicago, just this past weekend, there was 71 shootings in Chicago just this past weekend, and people get shot left and right, and a lot of it is our people shooting our own people. Now, did the white man tell them to do it? Nope. Nope. So the thing about it, some things I say it like this: sometimes you got to accept responsibility. You can't blame everything on the white man. Some of this stuff we bring it on ourselves. Assad has been on a crusade for over a year talking about the Zaman rap. You know, some of this stuff we bring it on ourselves now. Is it the powers that be help control that? Yeah. Oh yeah. But we are free will people. We can make a choice. You can make a choice to pick that gun up or not pick it up. You can make a choice to sell drugs to your people or not. You have a choice to do that. So if you take that choice and go down that road, you can't sit there and say that the man made me do. Man didn't make you do anything. You know, it's you. And when you stand before God, at the end of days, you can't sit there where the white man made me. No, that's not gonna fly. So the thing is, leaving United States is that racism is not my number one reason why I'm leaving the United States. That's probably number 6 or 10. There's other reasons why I want to leave, but I'm not walking around saying I'm afraid of white man. I've been in Mississippi all my life, and I've been black as I want to be. I ain't never changed for no white man. I ain't afraid of no white man. Period.
It was
Well, that boy
honestly, it
got
wasn't
that.
more
Boy,
of a
that boy
fear.
got
It
that.
wasn't a fear.
Tell your slave spirit. I like that.
Well, it wasn't like a fear. It was more so okay, I'll put it like this. I was very hungry to be successful, right? I had started a couple businesses. I had started working two jobs, 3 jobs while I worked doing 21 hours in college. But certain jobs just seemed like they were so controlled by certain people, the ones that made a difference. I'll put it like that. Because I can get a job at McDonald's, but I was tired of working 2 or 3 minimum wage jobs, if that makes sense. So I wanted to get into work at companies I would make enough money for 1 job versus having 3. So I felt like I had to position myself or look or carry myself a certain way, versus just being who I was. So now I that's how I feel now, Dr. James. Like I'm like,
totally
man, I don't even
Yeah.
I don't even associate myself with them, honestly, at this point, because I don't have to.
When I went to Africa, I did say this after my first trip. I said, you know what? Now I see how white people feel here.
Yeah, being in the majority.
Yeah, because it was like the total opposite. And me and my wife, we had went and visited a house. We was doing house hunting, and we had a older white real estate agent that was taking us around. And we were talking to the owner of one of the houses, and she was Indian, and if you close your eyes, you thought you were talking to a black woman, because she was just going right in front of this white woman, and she was just talking about, she was talking about apartheid and all kinds of different things and social things. And so the white lady wanted to chime in, so she said, well, if you end up moving here, I just want you to know that the most endangered, the most oppressed person in South Africa is the white male, because the white male, they don't give the white males a job, because they give them to the blacks first, but they don't give the white males the jobs. And she just went on and on. And I looked at her like, you want me to play a violin for you or something? Because that's the same thing that's happened to me over there. So won't we just switch places? Because, so that's the thing about it, the idea that you can really feel free in South Africa and be around your people. That's the problem, the number one draw. It's not that I'm leaving South Africa because I'm running from the cops. Because one thing, when you look at all that stuff that happens, what was the reason why the police were called in the first place? You got to answer that question first. Okay. All right. Now, what they did, I don't agree with it. But as long as I'm following the law and doing right and trying to be honest, I don't worry about it. If I get pulled over by the cops, I get pulled over by the cops. I give them my license, my insurance, and I move on. But, the thing is, I'm not, leaving solely because I feel like I'm oppressed, because if people look at my life and say that's oppression, well, give me some of that. Because I'm not, what I'm saying? I didn't have a real hard life, racially. And like I said, I spent, almost 95% of my time in Mississippi. But again, like I said, I just like the way I was treated in South Africa and the people and all of that. And that's what I'm looking forward to, for us to come together as African Americans and South Africans, coming together and building. And we're not coming to South Africa to take over or want South Africa to save us. We're looking to build together and build a better society. And hopefully, by doing that, we can, encourage more people to come to Africa, because, just like the propaganda about America being so great, there's a propaganda about Africa being so bad. And they only show the kids with the big bellies and the flies and on the eyeballs and stuff. That's all they see. So when I say I'm going to Africa, that's the first thing they think about. That we're going to a place where we're going to be living in dirt huts. And that's because that's the propaganda that was given. And so that makes it where black people don't want to go to Africa. But guess what? All the Europeans are. They're going over there, people from UK and Belgium and France, they coming down to South Africa and they're buying property because they see the opportunity, but they don't want us to be there. And so my thing is, I want to tell as many people as possible that I tell people all the time, South Africa is the closest thing to Wakanda that you can get, in my view.
Yeah.
You're right, man. There was this other person in the chats that said something about, you know, the person even mentioned Assad's name. They was like, yo, man, why are you and Assad and some other Americans making this move? You got these houses, these cars, these businesses, and electricity all the time. We have all this load shedding, and y'all gonna leave all of that and not even have power the way you want to have power? I was like, yo, man, we went like a year and a half ago, we went 2 weeks without power when we had that storm here in Houston. Remember that, Assad?
In the dead of winter.
Right. You know, we had the what you call the thing in the middle of the living room.
Oh my God. We had the the thing that you take outside, like you boiling crawfish.
Big old crab roll.
Big burner.
Oh,
We had a big burn in the middle of our living room.
Propane tank. Yeah.
With the propane tank giving us heating the house up. So and then all the trees died. We go through them same issues too. Not as much. But we understand issues too.
Yeah,
I mean, like if you just look at like where the U.S. is going right now, it's getting ready to be Handmaid's Tale for women. Like I don't know if y'all seen the show, but it's basically like a dystopian story about women having all their rights taken away, all their reproductive rights. They can't own anything. They have no say-so on who they procreate with. They're basically just vessels or maids. And it seems like we're just constantly eroding women's rights in this country, eroding, anywhere that they can take a little, they're just taking and taking and taking. And if this country is supposed to be free and everyone is supposed to be equal, it seems like this country is starting to be run by fanatical religious people, when that's not the foundation that America was based on. Like, people came here from Europe. White people came here from Europe for religious freedom in order to be able to practice their religions freely. And now they're doing the same thing. Like, they're creating an environment where one religion is making the rules. I mean, I just see the U.S. going into some type of collapse. I just don't see how this type of capitalism and fanatical religion can continue to sustain itself.
Capitalism is a trap itself, to be honest, because capitalism, the whole point is to make more money, and typically it takes people to do that. But eventually, I mean, because being honest, people are the biggest expense and are one of the biggest expenses in running any business. So what happens is you end up getting rid of those people and replacing them now with technology and robots, which collapses our economy alone because no one has jobs now. And it's just going to continue to be that way because this is a capitalist country. It's going to continue to just thrive and trying to find more opportunities to capitalize. And now your consumers end up being which are the ones who are, your employees are the same ones who don't have any money because you have capitalized to the point where they don't have jobs. So I feel like America is in a downward spiral, personally. I mean, everything that goes up must come down, and it's on this trend down right now. And when I look at places like South Africa or Africa in general, Africa is in a trend going up. Africa is starting from where everyone else did a long time ago, right? I'm not saying they're behind, but there's so much opportunity there because they're just getting started and ramped up. They're just getting their politicians in a better place. They're starting to. It's not perfect. It's not everywhere, but they are cutting off Western countries and some European countries from capitalizing on their minerals. Like they're saying, okay, well, you're going to be refining these things here, though. Or we're gonna refine them. You're going to buy from us. They're changing the way things have been done over so long, and I feel like that's the trend upwards. I just feel like Africa is the future for this world, not just the continent itself, but for this world, because they are realizing their value overall. They know they're learning how powerful they are. Not saying that they didn't know they were powerful, but they're taking the proper seat is what they're aiming for now. That's just how I feel. I feel like they're in a great space going upward.
I think nothing is more symbolic of the current state of the United States than President Joe Biden. If you look at President Joe Biden as an individual man, he's an old, feeble white man from a time long past, and he's not strong. His mind is not as sharp, definitely not as sharp as it used to be. And he is a representation of what America is now, a country that at one time was powerful and sharp. Because if you remember the old Joe Biden, he was sharp, strong, and a man who had gone through a lot of things. The loss of a wife, loss of a family, loss of a child, and was able to pull through and stand up. But now he's speaking at the podium, forgetting what he's saying. He's falling asleep. He looking old. He's falling off bikes and everything. Right. This this
This
is
is not the same Joe Biden that was screaming the N word, the full volume across um, the Congress floor. Like it's not the
that
same
ain't
one.
no. That's not the Strom Thurmond best friend Joe Biden. It's not him. This is an old feeble man, and this is where the United States. This is symbolic of the United States in many ways. It had its greatness, and it is still a very powerful nation, right? Some will argue maybe China is more powerful, more, or at least China is rising, right? So the United States had its time, it had its day in the sun, and now the sun is setting. And this is just the course of history, right? We remember, if you remember in history class, the Great Britain's flag was just about in every country from the top of the globe to the bottom of the globe, right? It was the empire, their wealth, the wealth that the queen has. Just the other day, they celebrated 75 years of the queen's reign. And I looked at Negroes like they was crazy. What Negro? You celebrating this queen? but anyway, the 75 years of the queen's reign and the empire that was created through colonization and the rape and the pillage of poor black and brown countries, right? Now there ain't no flag flying all over the world for Great Britain. No, those days are over. Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana. Louisiana was a French territory, right? It when Napoleon sold the United States, I mean sold the Louisiana Purchase to the United States, it doubled the size of the United States. That's how much land the French controlled, right? There are people right now in Africa speaking French because the French controlled land in Africa, nations in Africa, right? France ain't no superpower no more. Portugal ain't no superpower no more. Spain, all them people in Central and South America speaking Spanish. Why? Because Spain was a superpower. Those days are gone. We remember Russia. Y'all remember the USSR? Right? When we were children, there was a whole nation called the USSR, and they was some bad boys, right? Mikhail Gorbachev with that little thing on his head, he was a bad boy. That country's gone, right? And now you have Russia left, but you don't have the USSR anymore. What I'm saying is, and through the course of history, nations rise and they are powerful. So I'm not saying that the United States will disappear off the map. There's still a Great Britain, there's still a England, there's still a Spain. I'm saying its power and its influence is diminishing and will continue to diminish, right? Especially as we begin to globalize in this world. And there are many nations who what is the word I'm looking for? Um I don't want to say hate. The word escapes me, but there are many nations who hold some sort of feelings about the U.S. after being bullied by the U.S., forced into certain policies that they didn't want. Uh,
Animosity.
Animosity. Thank you, sister. There's a level of animosity toward the U.S. because of its policies, overthrowing duly elected leaders to put in puppet governments, selling arms to enemy states or enemy combatants in order to take control of a government, in order to access the resources of that government. Right? There are many folks who are praying for the fall of the United States and who are willing to participate with other powers who can help push the United States into fall. So I just see this as an opportunity for us to go and get our fourth fall. And it may not fall in our lifetime. It may not fall in our children's lifetime, but it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And we can at least put our children in a place that is on an upward trajectory,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
right? And they may not see all of the wealth and privilege and prosperity in their lifetime, but generations to come will be able to benefit. And let's not forget, as we leave, we don't want America to fall too soon. No, we don't want America to fall too soon because we want that dollar to stay strong. Because when we go to South Africa, the truth is we are placing ourselves in a different economic, socio-economic class. That's just the bottom line. We middle class over here. We won't be middle class over there. We'll be at least upper middle class, close to rich, right? Or close to wealthy, top income earners, or whatever have you. So we don't want America to fall too soon. Come on, hold on, America. Hold on, Joe. We try. Hold on.
Yeah, let us get integrated into the South African economy
Yeah.
first. Let us make our investments.
Well, let's look at Rome. Now, when Rome was in power, they controlled majority of the world. But when Rome was at its downfall towards the end, what happened was that there was no more lands to conquer. Uh, Military got complacent, leadership became complacent, and the people started complaining about the living conditions. And so, guess what they did? They created entertainment, the coliseums, the games, and stuff to distract the people, and it kept them distracted from the real problem that was going on with the government. And eventually, the government fell. Now, you look at in the past 10, 20 years, how much of an increase we have in entertainment with social media, with the internet. We are we're at the point now that we're so consumed with TikTok, we're not aware of what's going on in this world, especially in
Mhm.
politics, especially geopolitics. China is making their move. Russia is making their move, but
Mhm.
we're caught up on TikTok and YouTube and stuff, and we as black people, well, that don't have nothing to do with us. I ain't worried about what's going on in Ukraine or what's going on in Taiwan. It has every bit to do with us and everybody
Mhm.
in the face, because people don't know that we have sold so many bonds to different countries in the world, especially China. China owns so many of our U.S. bonds, which is our debt, that if they call the debt
Mhm.
day, we'll be in trouble. We will be
China could collapse the whole global economy if they called back their debts.
in one day, because and so our bonds are no good. Nobody want to buy our bonds no more. Our money no good. So I said the United States, just like Asad said, is on the back end of their success now, and we're starting to see a decline in the United States and respect, and then all the turmoil that was caused. You look at all the recent wars from really starting from World War I on to now. United States had a hand in that, and a lot of leaders, good leaders. Muammar Gaddafi. It was the propaganda said he was just a bad guy, but I mean, when you really look at what he did for his country and how people, if you want to get married, gave everybody $30,000 to get married. If you want to go to college, you went to college for free. healthcare was free. There was no such thing as homelessness there. Everybody got participated when Libya was selling oil and they made all these millions and millions and millions of dollars. Everybody participated in that. Everybody got a stipend. And then what messed it up, Muammar started talking about Africa, let's unite. Let's create a United States of Africa. They did not want that. The powers that be did not want that. So he had to go. So the thing is, the most powerful country, if Africa, if all the countries within Africa was to unite, they would be the most powerful continent on earth. Nobody would be able to touch us. Nobody. Uganda right now is the most, based on that, the estimate worth of the gold that they just discovered last month, they are the richest country on earth. Uganda, the richest country on earth based off that gold. So that's the thing about it. So guess what's going to happen? You're going to have predators going to come in there and try to destabilize Uganda and all that so they can take that gold from them. But I hope they stay strong. I hope they wise enough to say, no, you're not going to come here and get this. You're going to pay for it, but we're not going to give it to you. And so the thing about it, and then I feel like the countries around in Africa should unite and join with Uganda and not let Uganda go down. Because the thing about it, if these people come in and take over like they've been doing, China is coming in trying to take over South Africa and everywhere else by giving out low interest loans and stuff. And then next thing you know, they start calling loans, and then Africa's in debt to China. So the thing is, we as a people, we need to stop, slow down on, keeping up with what's going on with the Kardashians and keeping up with what's going on in this world. And so I just feel like, just like Assad said, I feel like Africa is the next best thing. And I want to be on the ship, when they take off. I don't want to be on the other side of the wall like, wow, Africa doing good. I wish I was there. I want to be there. Mm-hmm. And I believe that if we can come with our expertise, with our knowledge that we have learned over the years, and we take it over there and we build with them, I want to see Africa come up, not just South Africa, but the continent as a whole. But we just cannot allow infiltrators and colonizers to come over and take over. And we just have to stay strong. That's all we can do.
I want to jump in and kind of not lighten it, but and I hate to get so religious, but I am Muslim, big Muslim, right? And there is a scripture in the Quran, ayat in the Quran that says that there's a group of people who are being oppressed in the land, right? And they run to the angels and complain, man, we being oppressed. Man, Black Lives Matter. Man, it's just bad out here. All that, right? The angels look at them, and the angels don't say, go out there and protest. The angels don't say, you need to work capitalism and you need to just work harder and be a striver. The angels' response to these people saying they're being oppressed in the land is very simple. Did not Allah create an earth big enough for you to immigrate? We sit and complain all day about America, whether it's about the capitalism of America, the racism of America, the misogyny of America, and the response is quite simple. You got a whole world out here. You got a whole world, and guess what? Doc was very right. We ain't the only ones leaving. It's matter of fact, it's smaller numbers of black folk leaving than white folk. White folk get up and leave this country all the time, anytime they feel like it. And I want to address this right now. There's going to be a Negro somewhere talking about, well, y'all running, y'all leaving, y'all running. I'm going to stand here and fight this mock. Again, them white folks get up and go to Europe, they go to Spain, they go to Mexico, they go to Central and South America, they go to Africa, they go to India, they go to China to find an opportunity to better their lives, right? When they get tired of work, my colleague right now lives in the Czech Republic, right? She got up and left California and moved to the Czech Republic because she said it's cheaper to live over here than it is to live in California, right? Nobody says that they're running. They said they're seeking opportunity. We are the only ones, black folk, who hold on to this mentality that we're running, and it's rooted in the fact that we know that we are truly a bottom caste, second class citizen. See, those who know that they're citizens don't worry about running because they know they can come back anytime they want. This is their country, right? We are still fighting to solidify our position as citizens. So when we say we're leaving, it looks like we're giving up the fight. Well, how long are you going to continue to fight for this citizenship? Right? How long will you accept the second class citizenship? And if you can't beat them, right? If you can't beat them, it's 280 million white folk. They not finna give up their position for you. That's just the truth,
Yeah.
right? There's a table prepared with buku food on that table, and there's all kind of food and all kind of drink, and everybody hungry. Them white people are not finna scoot their seat over so you could eat. They gonna make sure that they eat and then their children eat, and that's the intelligent thing to do, right? We need to start acting and reacting the same way. There's a big old world out here for us to go and find prosperity and a better place for our children and our grandchildren. And if we don't, we are failures. If we don't take the opportunity, we are failures. You will continue to live and die, and your progeny, is that the word? Your children and your grandchildren will live and die and still be fighting for crumbs off the white man's table. We ain't we tired of that?
And you
I just got a one. Ain't we tired of that?
This country we were never intended to be citizens. Never.
No.
And every
One
time
third of a person.
there's been some legislation passed to solidify our citizenship, there was always a little hole in it. Always a little hole. Always a little hole. Like we were never this country was not they were not talking about us when they said everybody was equal. They were talking about all the white men were equal.
yeah.
Like
Prison system.
those were the only people they were talking about because they said all men are created equal and the white was implied. You know, this country was never meant for us. It was never intended for us to be free in it. And they're just gonna just keep reshaping and rebranding different ways to perpetuate slavery and the caste system and servitude. They're just gonna keep remodeling it and calling it something else until our kids and their kids die. You know, I don't want to be a part of it. And like Asad said, yeah, people. I've actually had one of my friends say, you know, before we even moved to South Africa, when we were moving into our house in the suburbs, she said, you know, it's people like y'all that just, you know, you start making a little bit of money and then you move out of the hood and you take all your money out to the suburbs. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you make a little bit more money and then move your family to the suburbs where it's safer and the schools are better and there's, you know, there's things for them to do after school, and you know what I'm saying? That I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do that. Why
We're
would you want to
following.
stay in a neighborhood where other people don't care about the whether they got trash outside or don't take care of their houses or
Right.
you know crime rampant all through that? Why would you want to stay in that environment? I know some people do. They stay and they fight and you know, definitely kudos to those people. I'm sure they're making changes, but that's not my
No.
that's not my journey.
We
Listen,
moved to the suburbs. Go ahead, Doc. I don't want to.
no, I'm just saying, going back to the, you know, you had quoted, you know, the Constitution about all men being created equal, and we was always considered 3/5. But the thing about it, a man just received 62 bullets. He was treated worse than an animal. Okay, he shot 62 times. Now a dog has more rights and more sympathy than a black man. Black man got 62 bullets. Now let a dog get shot 62 times and see what kind of uproar you have on the news.
Right.
And
Mhm.
the sad part is they shot at him 90 times. They only hit him. They hit him 62 times.
Michael Vick went to jail for dog fighting.
And he wasn't even on the property.
He wasn't even there. He went to jail and he's still vilified as the worst man on earth because two dogs fighting.
Yeah.
You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
The dog has more value than a black man.
Boy, that's you talked about Rome. You gotta go look at the founding of Rome and Remus and Romulus. Yeah,
Yeah,
who
raised
were
by
who
wolves.
were abandoned and raised by a she wolf. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's their relationship. They have a special relationship with the dog now. Yeah,
That's
they
why
got
they
a
call
special
man.
special relationship with the dog.
Yeah.
But what to Red's point, when we leave out of the hood, first of all, I wasn't raised in the hood, so I ain't leave out of nowhere. I was raised in the suburbs in a nice middle class house where we got to ride bikes and climb trees and play and all that. So I didn't leave out the hood, right? So that narrative about it just doesn't apply to me. But I know why people leave out of the hood, because they following the resources. They ain't following white folks. White folks just happen to have the resources. They're following the resources as Red talking. They're talking about those nicer schools, right? They're talking about the opportunities for recreational activities for their children. That is what good parents are supposed to do. You're supposed to better yourself. And then furthermore, when we live in the hood all of this time, right? We live in the hood, and then we in my city, New Orleans, which is Thomas, you told me it was the new murder capital, and just so happened I went to NOLA.com, and sure enough, there's an article saying that we have taken out, at least we number one at something, right? We are the murder capital. We number one at something, right? But we we talk about gentrification in New Orleans, right? White people coming in, buying houses, and they fixing them up. Negro, you've been living in this community 20 and 30 and 40 years. You seen Miss Mamie house needed some damn paint. Why you ain't go and paint our house? You could plant flowers. Why you ain't plant the flowers? Why when you walk out the store and like they said in the Goody Mob album, you break open your candy and you throw the trash on the floor, on the ground instead of putting it in it? Yeah. That ain't got nothing to do with white people, right? We
You
could
go.
gentrify our own communities
There
and
you
let me see, ameliorate and improve our own communities if we took the initiative and the time to invest in it. But we complain when white folks see the beauty in something that we have neglected for the whole time that we have lived there, right? We got to
Some
be
is
talk about accountability, taking responsibility for our actions. There's so much stuff that black folk want to push off on racism and white supremacy. And listen, Dr. Neely Fuller said, until you understand racism and white supremacy, everything else that you think you understand will only confuse you. And I agree with Dr. Neely Fuller. I understand racism and white supremacy. And I'm saying that certain actions within our community are void of racism and white supremacy. It's just the fact that we don't want to hold ourselves accountable. So it's easier. It's easy to push it off on white folk. It's easy to push it off on, oh, that's racism and the white man did this. Doc mentioned earlier, them people going through our neighborhood and killing. Okay, Dr. Neely Fuller mentioned racism and white supremacy. Well, when that white boy killed them 10 black people in Buffalo, New York, with the N-word written on that gun, that was racism and white supremacy,
I
right?
ain't seen one protest.
Not we ain't heard not one rap song came out of it. These Negroes locked up Young Thug, and they want to start a whole movement for Young Thug to free him, who's responsible for at least 50 shootings and 12 deaths, 12 murders, right? They want to free him, but they had this white boy wrote the N-word on his gun and went out there and killed people, and they say that's racism and white supremacy. Yet in our community, in Chicago, Doc mentioned 71 shooting, right? That's also, they are agents of white supremacy. When you are killing and shooting black people, you have become an agent for white supremacy, right? You have just taken their place. The Klan don't march in New Orleans. The Klan don't march in Memphis, Tennessee, right? The Klan don't march in Detroit and Chicago. For what? They ain't got to lynch Negroes no more. We got AK-47s and we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah, it's on automatic, man. They ain't like I said, they set up a system. It took a couple hundred years to get it there, but now the system is perfected. Now it's self-replicating. It's on automatic, so they can just sit back for ourselves, and we doing their work for them. And it started happening. You know, you start looking at the generation from the 50s to the 60s, from the 60s to the 70s, from 70s to 80s. It started going in a decline just like this. It's just not my opinion. You just go look at the numbers from the 50s to the 60s. Things start going down. From 60s to 70s, it started getting worse. By the 80s, we had the crack epidemic. 90s, we had gangster rap. And now here we are. We don't know, if we're going to be a man, woman, whatever, whatever goes now. So the thing about it, the nuclear family is disappearing. We down to like 30% of people being married, when in 1950s, it was 65 to 70% of two-parent households. Now it's down to 30. Now it's going to get to the point in the next 20 years, nobody's going to be married. Nobody's going to be an oddity if somebody's married.
And all the statistics tell us that children raised in single parent household are less likely to graduate high school. They have boys who don't have relationships with their fathers, or in-house fathers have less confidence. They're more likely to use drugs, more likely to be arrested. If the white community had 70% of their children being raised in single parent households, there would be just this national movement to get people married. Black folks sit back and accept single parenthood. We accept the destruction of the nuclear family. And I just wonder why. Sometimes I think it's the result of accepting liberalism from Democrats. And then sometimes I just think we're just too lazy and ungrateful to actually get up and do something for ourselves. Listen, I talked one time on the Montgomery bus boycott, right? The Montgomery bus boycott lasted over a year, 380 some odd days. Our people went to churches, and the church was the meeting spot. So they went to churches and said, you know what, we are not going to ride this bus. They organized carpools. The idea of a carpool came from Black folks in Montgomery, Alabama. The idea that we are all going to ride in the car. Black women would have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning if they didn't catch the carpool and walk miles to go clean up them white people house and baby they little brats, right? All day work, and then turn around and walk home for miles and go in the house and try to fix their husband and their family something to eat and spend whatever time they could with their children, only to go to bed and wake up and to do it again. And they did this for 380 odd days. Listen, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no TikTok. They didn't even have cell phones. They didn't have fax machines to do this. But what they had was a will to do something for themselves, to make a statement and to improve and ameliorate their conditions. We've lost that in the Black community. We just lazy and ungrateful. We don't want to do anything. I'm sorry, y'all. I got carried away. I apologize.
We're gonna cut that part out. So
I got
we're not cutting it. We're not cutting it out. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I think we've examined that question, the statement, the conversation. I think we've examined it fully at this point. Does anybody have any closing statements they'd like to make before we?
Yeah, I want to say
it down?
It was something that I saw. It was a video of a guy. He was telling a story about his grandfather. He said his grandfather had to walk 10 miles to work one way. He said his father had to walk 5 miles to work every day. And he said he drives a Cadillac. He said his son drives a Mercedes. And he said his grandson is going to be driving a Ferrari. But his great-grandson is going to be walking again. And the question is, how did that happen? Is because hard times created strong men, and good times created weak men, and weak men created hard times.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is as parents, as Black people, it's our responsibility to make sure that, we want our kids to do better. Of course, I want my kids to do better than me. I expect their kids to do better than them, and I expect them to keep going. But at the same time, we cannot make it so easy and so convenient for them where they make them weak. because yes, I struggle. I went to school just like Brother Thomas was can't hold down 2 jobs. I lied to you not. I had 4 jobs when I was at Xavier University, and my wife had 2. So between the two, we had 6 jobs, working and going to school at Xavier University. And I was carrying 16 to 18 hours every semester. Plus, I was in the reserves. Plus, I did ROTC, and I had to go to Dillard University to go to ROTC. So that was a tough time, a hard time, but it made me the man that I am. And so the thing is, we want to make sure that our kids grow up with integrity, grow up with character, because hard times build character too. And we make it so easy for our kids and stuff that we end up with some weak kids. And then next thing you know, our great grandkids or grandkids doing bad or doing worse than we did because they grew up weak. So, you know, so that's another whole nother subject. But the thing is that, you know, my thing is I want to provide for my family and provide a better life in South Africa, and hopefully not only provide a better life, but an easier life, but also at the same time instill into them the character and the character and the persistence that it took for me to get to where I am. Hopefully they'll do, you know, learn from that and be stronger people, stronger than I was.
I agree.
So, Thomas?
Teach them humility. I would just like to say to those who just aren't educated on Africa, if you just happen to come by this video, I highly encourage you to do your own research. I know listening to us is, you know, it's very helpful, but you have to find where you would like to be your next home, possibly, or see where you may be interested in. What country may stand out to you? South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, or, you know, those are not the only options, even though they are the most spoken of. There are 54 countries to choose from. You know, you have to educate yourself. You have to find what means something to you. And we chose South Africa. That's it is what it is. But these are not the only options. I just highly encourage you to just do your own research. Put your pride to the side. You're not running. You know what I mean? You're looking for a better opportunity within your lifetime instead of waiting around to see when is this finally going to turn over in America. You know what I mean? So I just highly suggest you just do your research. The information is out there. It's not hidden anymore. You don't just have to watch and pay attention to the propaganda. You can see the truth. There are travel bloggers. There are people that live on the continent that are reaching out to share this information because they do want to see people come back or come visit at the least. If you can spend $5,000 a weekend in Vegas, that's more than enough money. We spent 2 weeks in Cape Town, and that's what we spent, including everything from tickets to going out to eat to we stayed in 4 different Airbnbs while we were there to see different areas in Cape Town. It was $5,000. Y'all spend that in a night in Vegas and then post about it like you did something.
Yeah.
True.
It's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. Stop stunning for social media. You need to be able to do something to sustain yourself and provide for your family. So do your research.
Stacey and Red, I'm sorry that this was normally we laughing and joking. This was a very serious and intense podcast.
Well, I think it was needed though.
Yeah, but I'm not running. I'm just
it was needed because
fast.
It was needed because, like, some people need to understand the truth. You know what we're doing.
Oh,
I'm sorry, need to understand the truth.
I'm not running from the United States. I'm just walking real fast.
Well, yeah. So we're gonna close it up, and like I hope the people understand now what's going on, and I think it'd be only fair if Assad close it off with his little signature saying,
"Oh yeah."
Oh, my bam, 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 just like that.
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
Bam, bam,
say it
bam,
with your chest out.
Huh?
Say it with your chest out.
Man, I had my booty out yesterday.
Keep the oil. Keep the oil,
y'all, I don't know what's going on, y'all.
Greasy booty.
Yo, I done fucked the whole thing up. Stop touching it.
I gotta say this.
No, it's
I love
slipping on the
black
oil
people.
over there.
I want to say this. I love black people. I know sometimes I could just talk so hard about them and about us. Let me say not them, us. But I want to say I love black people, and I know that we are in a strange and a precarious position in this country. Some of it, most of it, is not of our own making, but a lot of it, or too much of it, is, and we have to have some accountability. Doc, you mentioned the struggle. I don't want nothing to do with that. I don't want my children nothing to do with that. I don't want them to ever walk again. Them white boys, Rockefeller and them ain't never walk no more. Yeah, all them people from Standard Oil and Bezos son ain't finna walk a damn step. You understand what I'm saying? And I just want to put my children and grandchildren and great grandchildren in a position where they don't have to know struggle, right? I want them to have integrity. I want them to have strength of character to deal with adversity. But I went through the struggle. I didn't grow up in no struggle. I grew up with good parents who had good jobs and fed me well. But as a man, I had to face struggle in my marriage, lost a job, and it ain't teach me a damn thing, but I don't ever want to struggle again. So with that being said, bam, 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 just like that.
Yes, what we said. Peace out, everybody.
All right. Thanks for everybody for watching, not joining this time.
Later, y'all.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.